Hello, once again, welcome to our complete Angular 7 user application. This is going to be step 9 of our Angular application build. We are done with the Angular front end, and now we're doing the middleware in this step, where we're going to look at, among other things, we're going to build a few POJOs, and then we're going to build a JWT Util, which is going to be building the tokens basically and checking, verifying, that kind of stuff. And then we'll have a password util, which is actually going to be like encrypting and decrypting the passwords as we pass them to the database for security. We're going to build the application context, which is basically the link between the front end and the back end. When the application comes up, the context basically initializes it, connects to the database, and gets the application ready. Then we're going to build a JWT security filter. This is the main thing that controls security between the front end and back end. It verifies tokens, and when you're coming from the front end, it checks to see whether you're eligible to receive the data from the back end, and then does that for you. So that's what we're going to be doing. So stick with us in the next 45 minutes. And if you like this tutorial, or if you're new to this channel, please click on the subscribe button. It will look something like this. The button is below, and once you click on that, we'll be able to inform you of upcoming tutorials or anything new on the channel. Don't forget to like us by clicking on the thumbs up button that looks like this below. And for links to our GitHub website where you can get all the code for this tutorial, please look below at the YouTube description. We'll give you links to our GitHub site and to our website where you can actually get more information about this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to comment below, and we'll respond to you on time. And without wasting time, let's get started on our step 9 of our complete Angular 7 web application. Hello. On this part of the tutorial, we've already built the front end. We're going to start building the middle tier, which is going to have a JWT security filter, REST API, and password hashing, data access objects, business logic in our service classes. I'm going to build a project, a Java project using Maven. So let's get started. So if you do MVN version, and you can install Maven, and you can get resources online if you come into a page and say just Maven in 5 minutes. That's what I usually like to go. You go to the first link, and it'll explain to you how to build a simple application, how to get started. So we're going to use something similar to this. As you can see, we have Maven version 1.8. So it doesn't matter what it is. You can get the latest version if you just go to Maven download. You can grab the latest, from Apache software. You can get the latest one and the one for your system. You do MVN archetype generate. I'm gonna say group ID PMK app. I'm gonna do the artifact ID user. So that's the name of the project. That's how you do it. And then I'm going to do the archetype artifact ID is equals to Maven archetype web application, web app. And I'm going to say the interactive mode is false. And if you see it doing this, then you're doing the right thing. So it's generating a project right now. So now if you look inside here, you're going to see a project called user. So you're going to do cd user. So I'm going to go inside the project. MVN something like clean package. I'm going to say URL emcant.com. User CRUD web application. I don't like to do snapshot. I'm going to say this is version 1.0. So under the project, if you look under that now, source, main, okay, you're gonna have resources and you're gonna have web app, but we need to have Java too. And inside Java, I'm gonna do new folder here, com pmk, and under there I'm gonna have a folder called app. It's very good to organize your project into, packages, and these packages are basically folders. Under app, I'm gonna have a folder here called DAO, which is the data access objects. So all my data access objects are gonna go there. Data access objects are gonna be this part, and then we're gonna have, let's go back there, another new folder, and we're gonna have the filter. This filter is just gonna have one class, and it's the JWT security filter there. Okay. Then we're gonna have model. A model is, Java POJO Java classes that carry the data back and across. One of them is called user. And user is gonna have the username, password, and all those members inside there. Another folder here I'm gonna build is gonna be called REST, and this is where my endpoints are gonna be. The REST endpoints are gonna reside there. It's Java classes. I'm gonna have service, which is gonna have all the services that contain the business logic we're talking about here. And then I'm gonna have another grouping called Util. Okay, that's gonna have a utility for hashing the passwords and also for creating the JWT tokens. So, and then finally, last but not least, I'm gonna have a folder called web. This is where I'm gonna put a very important thing, Java class that now basically integrates the web application or the front end with the back end by connecting to the database and then providing, so when the REST service is running, it's actually going to be integrated using, all these are going to be integrated using the web class that I'm going to create, just one Java class. Properties are going to actually be the last thing. I'm just restricting the application properties, so that the versions are tied down here. So as you can see, I'm going to need Servlet API, Jersey, JDK, MongoDB, Django, FastXML, Maven compiler, Jetty, which is the server, web app server, Enunciate. I'm going to use this and I'll show you what it does. It just creates like this little HTML thing where I can go test my REST endpoints and know that they work before I call them for my application. And then JSON Web Token, this is where the JWT tokens are going to be created with. And then JSON, this is just basically for, when you make calls to the backend, to the REST services, and back and forth, you exchange objects. You go to the database and get a user and bring them back. When you bring them up, we're using JSON. So this JSON package helps us, kind of convert and reconvert these objects as you transport them from the front end to the back end and back. So I don't think I need, I'm not going to be testing, so I'm going to remove the JUnit. And so as you can see, we're saying we're going to use JavaX Servlet and version 3.10, and we're just providing it. What this means is that we're going to use it to compile, but we're not going to package it in our Java file. We need those several Jersey files, okay? Jersey REST API database. This is I'm gonna say database. So we need both of those. That's for the database in the tutorial. MongoDB help. JWT tokens, web tokens, and this API over here is very useful. You'll see, you'll write very little code and it just puts up. Other APIs, you know, you have to write classes on classes on classes. This one you don't have to. I'm just going to write one utility class and you'll see it'll have like 5 methods and everything is going to work. So, but it's very good because what it does is that it opens up ports. I'm going to allow different ports and I'll show you how I do that. Different ports, so that because we're going to be developing the application, or we've been developing the application on the port 4200, which is the default Angular port, but this is going to be residing in port 8080. So these plugins are, so the first one is just a compiler. This one is also a JWT plugin, and this is very interesting. You look at that code right there. That's all we need for a server. We are not going to install any server in this machine. What's going to happen is that this is going to go in there. First of all, create a JWT web server, and then it's going to deploy our Java code and the Angular code, both front end and back end, Angular and Java. It will deploy it into, so it creates a server, deploys the server, and runs it. If you want to build a project on different ways, like, you know, so let me show you, for instance. So one things I want to do is I want to build an application normally, and then I want to build it for Enunciate. And Enunciate, like I said, is it creates a, you know, Swagger HTML files where I can actually go test my backend. Another profile I'm using is Maven Shade, and what this does is that it creates my files, you know, in a WAR file. So if I want to run them, for instance, when I'm inserting data into the database, I use this utility called MongoDB Util. And so I'll build a jar file and then call MongoDB from that jar file. And that's the only reason why I need this Maven Shade. So the reason why you have profiles is because normally when you build, you know, you don't need to do this all the time. I do this once, I do this probably once, and then normally I just use the default is just the default profile. So that's why you do that. So that's about it. Let's just go do Maven clean package. As you can see, it builds properly. So I'm going to create a workspace here called tutorials, and inside there I'm going to create a tutorial called user. I'm going to put my ID information over here. Whenever I have to package my app, I don't have to worry about, I don't want to package it with ID things, you know, I just want the application itself. So now that we're ready, let's go there, and I'm going to say, so this is IntelliJ. You come in here, so I'm going to say import tutorials Java user. So that's what I want. Okay. So, and I must select its Maven. I usually go just with the defaults, except over here. I'm going to say, I'm going to check this, import Maven projects automatically, and I'm going to check this. And now I'm going to change this to that place where we created. It's going to be under Workspace, tutorials, user. So my files are going to be there. I'm going to do next. Okay. And I'm going to say, I don't even need these profiles. So I'm just going to say next. And I'm going to say next. And this is JDK 1.8. You can change your JDK to another version. I'm just going with the defaults. This is going to be called user. It's going to be there. I'm going to say that's it. Done. So Maven opens a new project called user. Anyway, so now the app is sitting over here. So we have a new app that has got all these things. So now let's go ahead and start building some classes. I'm going to say new Java class, and I'm going to call it user. Private int user ID, okay? And then I'm going to say private string username. If you recall on the front end, we need just something that has the same field. So username, this is going to be last. This is going to be password. And then token. And then this is called, I'm going to call this show password. This is for when you're retrieving something and you want the password to be hidden, so the user, if they want to retype it, then they can go there. And I already showed you that in the front end how it works. Now over here, I'm going to create a class called, let's create another class called gender and enum. Okay, we're just going to call that. Let's do it. You can put your name here or whatever you want to do. But this is basically going to be female, male, other. Okay, kind of like that. So now I'm going to come in here into my, and I'm going to say private gender, gender, private date, date of birth. And you can, whenever you see this, you can always do Alt Enter, and then I'm going to enter as util. You can select any of these. I just use the basic Java util date. When you're working with a Mongo database, especially with the drivers, what you want to do is you must have this public user. You have a default constructor, override, and I like to say public string to string. So sometimes, you know, you're having problems and you want to find out what is in your class. So if you do this, it converts your user into a string, and this is a nice thing to do. So I'm saying return a string, okay, and this string is just going to be something like this. Let me show you. I'm going to say user, and I'm going to say this, and watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to do ID, okay, user ID is equals to user ID, okay, something like that. And then I'm just going to say something like, you know, username, and you can put in all the values if you want. I don't want to put all of them. I'm gonna say just that for now. I'm gonna say right click, I'm gonna say generate getters and setters, and I'm gonna just say for everything. Data access object bean. Okay. Things I'm gonna say first of all, private object ID of Beeson, okay, underscore ID, and you'll see why. When we go to the Mongo database, the ID is actually like underscore ID, and so that's gonna map into this class in that way. I'm gonna say private date, Alt enter date from, and then enter to get it from util. I'll say create date. When you updated it, and then who updated it, and you'll notice, like, you know, I mean, out of programming for years, this is what you know. So anyway, and I'm gonna do delete. So I want to know when it was created, when it was updated, and when it was deleted. So we're gonna be extending this class and all the other POJOs. Okay, I'm gonna say generate getters and setters, and I want for everything basically. And then I'm gonna change this. If ID is null, return null. Else, return ID to string. So it's just gonna grab this ID over here and turn it into that. Okay. And instead of returning object ID here, I'm gonna return a string. And then this thing, I'm gonna call it set ID. I'm gonna pass it a string. Again, I'm gonna do that. If ID is equals to null, either that or id.length is less than 10, this dot id is equals to null. If that's not the case, then this dot id is equals to new object id. Okay, that takes in the ID that you just passed in. And that's all we have to do here. And now I'm going to come over here and add this thing. Extends DAO bean. Over here, if you remember this method we did, I can say user ID is equal to get ID. Did I leave this as yeah, I need to say just get ID here. I don't want it looking like that. That looks ugly. So we're just gonna say get ID. One more class we need over here. We're gonna call it credentials, and you're gonna see why. Credentials. Okay. This credentials is just gonna have user public credentials, username, and I'm gonna say this dot username is equals to username. This dot password is equals to password. Override public string to string, and I'm gonna return this, and I'm gonna say credentials, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say username is equals to username password password. That's all I'm going to say there. And then I'm just going to come here, enter. You have to, with this ID, you have to put the cursor where you want the getters and setters to be. Click on generate, and then generate right there. That's a little trick. You may want them to be somewhere, and then you do it, and then they come over here. I like them to be ordered that way. For the data access objects, I add repository, okay? And it's going to be an interface, kind of like that. Repository, right? Get of type, a typed thing, and then it's going to be I'm going to say public list t. I'm going to say fetch all. Okay, I'm going to do alt enter, and that's going to bring Java user list. Okay, so Java util list, sorry. I'm going to say public t fetch one. Okay, string ID, and then I'm going to do public void upsert. Okay, object public void, and this is going to be delete. So when you're deleting an object, you're going to use the object ID, and that's all. Let's write the first one. I'm going to call this I to mean implemented user repository. I'll call it just iUser repo. Implements repository of type user. Okay. All right. And now you can see it's telling me this, and I'm just going to say implement all the methods of that repository. Fetch a list, fetch one, kind of like that. Private mongo collection from Django. I'll say user collection. Okay. And then I'm going to say public iUser repo. Okay. Mongo collection. I'll say collection here, and I'll say this dot user collection is equals to collection. Mongo cursor. Okay. I'll type user. Okay. I'll say all. I'm fetching all. I'm gonna say user collection find. I'm gonna say sort. I'm gonna say username one s user dot class list user users new array list. I want to say while all has next users add all next. Return users. If ID is null, return null. And if it's not, I'm going to say return user collection find one with OID ID. Import static og Django OID with OID s user dot class user collection save object. That's all I'm gonna say. User collection remove new object ID public user find user by user name and password. Return user collection find one Yes, I don't want to type this. Username, but I'm gonna put a quote because it's a string, kind of like that, comma, password. And we put this into quotes because it's a string again. And I'm gonna say S user class. Find user by username. Sorry. Okay. And that's all. So this is all we need to do to get data from the backend. We're just gonna do this. I'm gonna create a Java class here called app context listener. I'm just gonna implement servlet context listener. I'm just gonna say implement the methods. Servlet context. Servlet context is equal to servlet context event dot get servlet context. A servlet context now set attribute. I'm gonna say user service new user service get user collection. And let's go create the user service first. We're gonna create it under here as a Java class. Private alt enter will bring the dependency in, and I'll say I user repo. Okay, and I'll say public users service I user repo Now I'm gonna say this that I user repo is equals to user repo. I'm gonna create another class. I'm gonna say login service. I user repo, okay, and over here we're just gonna say that we're just gonna do alt enter, so that's gonna give us user. Now get user collection, let's go ahead and write this method right here. It's gonna return I user repo. So over here we're just gonna do mongo collection is equal to, I'm gonna do it first here, we're gonna do Django. I'm gonna do alt enter is equal to new Django. First let's declare something here. Private mongo client. Public mongo client is equals to new mongo client. Over here we can just say Django mongo client get db new. Actually, let's create one thing first. I'm going to create a class here called app-util. Application util. a utility class. Private properties props new properties. Under resources here in Java, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it config.properties. I'm going to say MongoDB name is equals to user password salt. And you can say Angular 7 token expires. Token is going to be expiring in 15 minutes. And the database is not up, so to start it, you just go here, you say MongoDB, and your password is going to be started. Now let's go back to this, get property. Okay. I'm going to say string file name config.properties. Try input stream. I'm going to do alt enter, Java input output. I'm going to say this dot get class loader, get resource as stream file name props load input stream, return props get property prop. They catch IO exception. Could not load property from, but this should just technically never ever happen. Public date get formatted date, and it takes in a string as date string, so we have a universal format of a date that goes through the application. I'm going to say simple date format is equals to new simple date format, and I'm going to use mdd y date try return this catch parse exception return no. Over here now, coming back here, I'm gonna say app util get property mongo collection, so Django.get collection, and that collection is also called user collection ensure index user ID 1, and another one I'm gonna say unique true. Return new I user repo of type collection. So when the context is destroyed here, I'm going to say mongo client, close. Over here, I'm going to say catch exception e system.out println initialization problems. And this is going to be login service. Okay. When we get there, I'm just going to do that. Basically, we're talking about this part, this connection right here to cut over here and over here from the rest. That's all you need. I'm going to call it JWT security filter. And what it does is that it connect when a call comes from the front. I'll show you. Implements container request filter. And I'm just going to say implement the methods. String authorization header. And I'm going to say container request dot get header value. And the header is going to be spelled authorization like that. And I'm going to say if authorization header is equals to null, or authorization header starts with bearer invalid authorization header. URI container request get request URI. If URI get raw path contains our REST API is gonna start with the format /API, you know. So if it is like that, and just saying return container request, and then I'm gonna say else doing nothing for method URI throw new web application exception response dot status for one type media type, and I'm say application JSON entity invalid authorization. Authorization required, and then I'm gonna just build this. Else I'm gonna create something in the util. I'm gonna create something called the token util, which I'm gonna call here private static final int token requires integer first int new up util get property minutes. It expires in 15 minutes. The salt, I'm just getting the salt issue token. Return JWTS builder, set subject, username, set issuer, URI info, set issued at new date, set expiration. I'm going to create a method called toDate. I'll call date time. I'm going to do Alt Enter. Return date from local date time at zone ID system default to instant. Local date time now plus minutes. Token expires in. I'm just going to change this, so for naming convention it'll be good. Sign with signature algorithm 512. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say return new secret key spec salt get bytes first word salt get bytes length, and we're going to use DES. Over here now I'm going to say generate encryption secret. I'm done creating the JWT token. I'm just going to say compact to this now. So we're done with this class now. So let's go back where we were trying to fix, and what were we trying? JWT security. I'm going to say if token util validate token. Let's write the validate token. Takes in a token string, token try JWTS parser, set signing key, let's generate encryption secret, and then you parse claims and return true. catch exception E will return false. Now let's go back here and see if we got everything we need. So if validate token authorization header substring bearer dot length trim system dot out invalid token throw new web application exception response status unauthorized. Let's just do this. We'll make the code look a little better. Else, actually, this looks better. So whenever we see something that's saying JWT security filter token valid, means that it's good. So that's all we're gonna do for this class. So we intercept the call to the backend, check the token to see whether it's valid, and if it's valid, let it continue. If it's not valid, we're gonna return a web exception, response status, unauthorized. Back to the front end. Authenticate is gonna have credentials. All right, so we're gonna end our tutorial right here. We have almost everything done. The only thing we have to write now is the login service, the user service, and write the REST services. Thank you very much for watching our complete Angular 7 user application. In the last 45 minutes, we talked about that middleware, and we build user and other POJOs, basically Java classes that handle the data. We build the JWT Util, the password utility. We build the app context that connects the backend to the front end and initializes the database, and the JWT security filter that controls security between the front end and our data to safeguard our data. As usual, if you're new to this channel or you like this tutorial, please click on the subscribe button so we can let you know of upcoming tutorials and news on this channel. Also, please don't forget to click on the thumbs up to like us. For links to our GitHub website where you can get code on this tutorial, or to our website where you can get more information on the tutorial, please click, go down below on our YouTube description for that information. If you have any questions or comments, please don't forget to comment below. Good or bad comments are accepted, and we'll respond to you as fast as possible.